Greetings, I'm Sophis. I hope you're all having an alright start of the year. I've gotten a few comments asking about Reavers recently, which made me realize it has been quite a while since I've done something with that culture. In my personal time, it actually is my favorite as the theming of the Reavers appeals to me as someone who played the Dreadnought class quite a bit during Age of Wonders 3. I'll be talking a bit about the overall state of Reavers and the past builds I've made, so if you're here just for the build, please skip ahead to the next chapter. The reasons I haven't made more builds for them are simple. First, the Frostfire build I've made does try to make the most out of the Mage Lock. Nothing in the latest update really offered alternatives that felt more interesting than what Tome of Calamity enables with stacking fire and frost damage. And although the culture itself isn't the focus of the build, one of the Giant King's factions I've made also use Reavers, with the faction's overall chaos affinity enabling a critical hit focus that plays pretty well with the Mage Locks. But the biggest reason I haven't done much else with them is that Reavers do need an update. I realize I'm not alone in saying this, as a poll on the official Age of Wonders YouTube channel shows there's more players who feel this faction really does need a touch-up. My main issue with them is that the faction is very much locked into a very specific niche, in a way that hurts its own performance. Reavers are by far one of the best cultures in matters of capturing enemy units, at least without accounting for tomes or any other external factors. From as early as turn 1, you're given a 2-unit combo that excels at it, the Harrier and the Overseer. The Harrier starts this combo with its Cast Net ability, and the Overseer inflicts the subdued status on the immobilized unit. However, as they stand, I would not recommend them at all for a capture-focused build. The reason is quite simple. With any other culture, when you capture an enemy, you either pay with gold or you pay with mana. With Reavers, you instead pay with their unique faction resource, War Spoils. And the big issue is that War Spoils are much harder to come by, at least compared to gold or mana. You can always increase your production of gold and mana with your economy, by exploring, and by resolving dilemmas and events. War spoils are much more limited. You only get them by fighting with free cities and other empires. If you want to engage with this resource at all, you have to play into this. In fact, if you want to use Mage Lock cannons, you can only recruit them with that resource. So you need to focus entirely on aggression, and even then, it isn't a consistent stream of war spoils. It isn't a resource you produce as much as it is plunder that you earn from a finite resource, enemies that you're at war with. To highlight how bad this is, let's look at other unique resources. Necromancy-focused builds have to contend with souls as a resource. You get them primarily from battle and defeating enemies, much like you do with war spoils. But you get them from any battle, not just enemies from wars. And more importantly, you do get access to city structures, special provinces, and even wonders that can grant you soul income passively. And if we want to just look at cultures, let's look at architects. Wonderstone is their unique resource that they need to make dedications to affinities and empower their whole faction. Primarily, you get Wonderstone by surveying provinces with magic materials, but you can still get a passive income by annexing said materials to your cities, and can even improve your income of Wonderstone by grabbing Tome of Transmutation and just getting a transmutation circle in every city to accelerate how fast you can keep pushing those monuments. So in essence, war spoils are the one unique resource that is vital to a culture that you can only get in a very specific way. And this harms half of what makes the Reavers a good culture. The capture part of their culture is hindered by the production of their unique resource. You can't make a Reaver build that only focuses on it, because you run out of war spoils faster than you can assemble stacks of captured enemies. Still, they currently make up for it by having other amazing base units, The Mercenary is a very reliable Tier 1 unit that you can build and buff well into the later stages of the game. And the Magelock is a ranged unit that after many patches has 2 distinct firing modes as well as an inbuilt ability to ignore half of the enemy's defenses. With all that in mind, I'm bringing you the Relentless Reavers today. This build tries to play into the intended playstyle of the Reavers. While you can play this with any ruler you want, I would recommend a Wizard King due to their ability to cast 2 spells in a single turn of combat. The reason for this is a combination of 2 combat spells that, when used in tandem, will give your army hastened and the full 5 stacks of strengthened in a single turn. Tome of the Bloodrite gives you a very easy way to grant 4 stacks of it by huddling up your troops around a central one and casting Rite of Life Leeching. Yes, the text says it's just 1 stack, and that is why in your capital you build the Chaos Bolstering Lens, giving this spell the extra 3. Then with your Wizard King you get a second spell in, to take advantage of your units already being huddled up. Cascading Command Reposition. This grants them hastened and the final stack of strengthened, with units like Magelocks benefiting from ignoring half defense and dealing high single-shot damage. I hope I don't need to explain why a 50% bonus damage to your whole stack is a great deal. That said, the main units benefiting from enchantments in this build will be your melee. Ranged and support get fewer buffs, but those they do are already plenty. Mercenaries, Dragoons, and Harriers will benefit from a few offensive and defensive combos. Obsidian weapons and blood-drinking blades complement one another, giving a small amount of self-healing to your frontline. Then, for the Mercenaries and Harriers with their repeating attacks, Empowered Strikes gives them a chance to stun enemies. On the defensive side, all your frontline gets Prescient Circlets, letting you ignore 1 instance of damage by going into defense mode in case you're anticipating big damage. Compounding Defense works well with it, as Prescient Circlets help you avoid the downside of huddling up your frontline units due to area attacks. But even if you get in a tough spot, you'll have Blessed Armors to add to the self-healing, as well as Keeper's Mark to prevent you from losing that unit entirely. Your ranged backline, the Magelocks, will have Focused Aim to reliably land attacks, Fated Projectiles to add to their critical hit chance, and Obsidian weapons to add more physical damage to their single-shot ability. Ideally, this will be paired with the 5 stacks of Strengthened I've mentioned earlier, to make sure they hit hard. For support, while you can stick with the Overseers, you'll have access to Oracles and Light Spirits. They'll just benefit from Staves of Grace, Sanguine Focus, and Focus Aim. But that also seems like plenty. The debuff clearing from Staves of Grace should help you deal with anything that the minor transformations don't remove automatically. As far as minor transformations go, you'll have access to Flesh-Carved Runes, helping some status resistance bypass. Inner Mastery, increasing healing efficiency, Anointed People, further increasing status resistance, Earthkin, which will nullify the Form's Great Flaw, and Linked Minds to give your units immunity to flanking with proper positioning, and lastly, Pure Soul, giving passive negative status clearing. So as you can see, every part of your roster gets at least some buffs, and you'll have a decent and cheap frontline. Let's talk about society and form traits. We're playing Reavers, and for this build we're going with Prolific Swarmers to reduce unit upkeep cost, and Relentless Crusaders to give you bonus Imperium when you play into the Reaver playstyle. The bonus grievances will also help you declare justified war more easily. With form traits we want Strong, as it benefits both melee and ranged damage. Keen-Sighted to help ranged accuracy, Overwhelmed Tactics to compound on the huddling up strategy the tomes enable, and Vulnerable to Physical, which gets nullified by Earthkin. As far as your tome setup goes, here's what you want. At Tier 1 we start with Tome of the Bloodrite. Unlike prior builds that used everything, we mostly want blood-drinking blades and the Ritual of Life Leeching from this, for the strong area buffing I mentioned. Sanguine Focus is optional in case you want to buff your support units. Tome of Rock is required for obsidian weapons, so blood-drinking blades will trigger more reliably. Earthkin is the other priority here to nullify the form trait flaw. Tome of Discipline remains a universally useful tome that almost every build benefits from in one way or another. We mainly want focus aim and empowered strikes from this, and grab Inner Mastery for better healing. At Tier 2, we just want Tome of the Construct. Linked Minds and Cascading Command Reposition are our priorities here, but also keep an eye out for Compounding Defense and the other Cascading Command. Tome of Sanctuary starts off Tier 3. We mainly want Keeper's Mark and Anointed People here, but there's more in this tome that's worth considering for your campaign and army. The Light Spirit Summon is an incredible healer unit. Salvation will be yet another means of clearing debuffs off of your units. Healing Spires and Sanctuary will help you out considerably in defending your home territory, with Sanctuary also helping make up the lower mana production that Reavers have. Next we go to Tome of Prophecies for Fated Projectiles and Prescient Circlets, once more buffing both our ranged and melee. Fated Projectiles, alongside Overwhelm Tactics, grants you 40% critical hit chance without any other modifiers. This tome also gives you the Oracle as a higher tier support unit for your army, pairing well with the Light Spirits from Sanctuary or working just fine on their own. At Tier 4, we start off with Prosperity. Army-wise, we'll want Staves of Grace and Blessed Armors for the healing and debuff clearing. But as far as the economy goes, we'll have Garden of Affluence and Shrine of Prosperity to boost it considerably. That alone is why I prefer to make it the first pick at this tier. Next, we want Tome of the Archon for the Pure Soul Minor Transformation and Holy Aura, which adds even more benefits to your units standing close together. The overall access to high tier units isn't bad either, in case you want to bolster your Reaver armies with them, thanks to Archon Gate and the Summon Astra spell. At Tier 5, you'll have the affinity to get Tome of the God Emperor. Since all your units will have Faithful, it synergizes pretty well thanks to Mass Revive. And that's the build, trying to make something a little newer that plays into the current limitation of the Reaver playstyle, so you don't feel like anything is holding you back. The majority of your roster is usable and gets some benefit, and overall it felt pretty good to play around with. Hopefully the results of the poll they've made means they'll give Reavers an update soon, and they'll feel more in line with the reworks and more modern DLC cultures. Even if it isn't a base game culture, they definitely need it. And that's what I have for you today. Once again, I hope you're having a good start of the year, a good day, and see you in the next one.